Hello, I'm Riverside County Sheriff Chad Bianco, and welcome to another episode of the RSO Roundup. Today we have with us in our studio Chief Bill Weiser, and we're happy to have him here, glad to have him here. We're going to talk about fire and fire's relationship to law enforcement and how we work together to keep Riverside County safer. So, Bill, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's going to be a fun time. My first podcast.
Really?
Yeah, this is the number
Outstanding.
one. Yeah.
I'm honored.
I am too.
Very good. I hope we don't screw it up.
Well, we'll see. Let's
With
not
you
put
and I together, there's no telling.
It's going to go different.
Yes. So thanks for coming on here.
Sure.
For the audience, why don't you tell them just a little bit about yourself and how you became the chief here in Riverside County?
Well, sure. I've been with CAL FIRE for 41 years. This is my 41st fire season. I started in Fresno. I came here to Riverside in 1986. I went through the ranks. And in 2020, I put in for the fire chief position and was awarded that or appointed that position.
Very nice. And that was the board that appointed you, or is it a combination of
it's a combination.
an agreement with CAL FIRE and the county?
So Riverside County Fire Department and our contract cities, we contract out for labor for CAL FIRE. We staff the equipment and we provide leadership. So when I got the CAL FIRE unit fire chief job a couple days later, per the contract, I was then appointed the Riverside County Fire Chief.
Very good. Mm-hmm. So it's very, for our listeners and viewers, it's very much like CAL FIRE for most of the state is very much like us with our contract cities. So our cities, 17 of our municipalities contract with us for law enforcement services the same way counties do with CAL FIRE.
36 of 58 counties in California,
Yeah, the overall majority.
Sure, and here in the county, the Riverside County Fire Department, as you know, they contract, 19 cities contract with Riverside County to provide fire services, and that's why the deputies and our firefighters always have a lot of interaction because we are contractors together. Yeah,
and as far as the first responders go and working together, a lot of the 911 calls generated require both of our agencies to respond. So they do work together. I mean, you growing up at whatever station we're in, we know what fire stations are in our area, and we become very acquainted with the people working there and them with us, and it's a very seamless, good working relationship.
Yeah, it has been in the 30 years I've been here. And one of the things that you've continued and even grown as the sheriff is, I really appreciate you guys have always watched our guys' back, right? So the deputies that are on the streets and their sergeants have always been kind of listening and making sure that when we're going to calls that they can kind of know are going to be a little difficult, they're there to watch. R6 is always the best way I can say it. There's been many times I walked out of something or someone's house after having a medical aid and there's a deputy right there, just kind of making sure everything's going the right way.
Yeah, absolutely. There's sometimes, dispatch knows sometimes with those calls too, and while it may be a fire call, we still get that notification that you're going there, and deputies usually respond.
Well, think how many times deputies are closer to drownings and those kind of things, and deputies sometimes get there first before fire piece equipment does. It even starts that life-saving piece, right? CPR, those things, especially in infants. We see that too much, I'm afraid, in our county, drownings, especially infants, and it's that time of year.
Yeah, absolutely. Not to put you on the spot, but off the top of your head or roundabout, how many firefighters do we have here in Riverside County?
We have 1,180.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. And then we also have a county staff of about 260. So there's a county staff from dispatchers as well as mechanics, people to pay the bills. Our IT department is all actually still county employees, so we're a combination of both.
Mm-hmm. So the firefighters are actually CAL FIRE, so it's the personnel fighting fires that are the contract.
Yeah, we do as I said, we staff the equipment and provide leadership within the department.
Right.
That's our job.
Yes. So in addition to the actual firefighters, the ones on the engines and the ones responding to wildfires and everything else, you have investigators.
I do.
You have criminal investigators
Sure do.
that actually do the arson investigators or investigations.
Yeah.
That's really where our investigations unit work hand in hand, trying to determine who starts some of these fires.
Well, they do, right? Our law enforcement bureau has got 11 officers assigned to it, and we do kind of work hand in hand. Often when it comes to arson, there's also other crimes that are kind of happen at the same time where As you know, those can be things of passion often, where people are burning things down. So our two departments do meld together very well as you have the jail, so we have to bring where we arrest your
absolutely,
jail.
Absolutely, and really, as far as I don't remember all of the fires that I believe that we've determined have been arson in Riverside County for as long as I can remember. We've caught people.
Yes, we do.
We've tracked them down, and either your guys or combination of us, and we're very good at finding the people that are destroying our hills.
We really are. And not only is destroying our hills, but burning down houses, commercial, whether commercial property and cars and everything, right?
Yeah.
Fire is a big destructive force that people sometimes unleash, and it takes all of us to get it done.
Yeah. And along those lines with the crimes, that we charge people for, inevitably there are firemen and deputies that get hurt. Yep. During these fire operations, and that's an additional charge that we charge them with.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's and unfortunately we're coming into that season again. As soon as the summer gets warm and the weeds die and things get brittle, it's gonna start.
Yeah. It's already on us, really. Look at Orange County. Just 2-3 weeks ago, they just had a kind of a regular coastal day, and they had a pretty destructive fire. Burnt down at least a dozen houses, and
they were big ones.
There were big ones.
A lot of money involved in those.
Yeah, but a house is somebody's home. No matter if it's a mobile or a big one, it's somebody's everything.
Their life.
Yep,
yeah,
it's their
and
everything.
You can't get those things that are inside those personal properties. And
nope.
the fires that I've been around where we've had people that have lost their homes, when you can't, it's hard, and sometimes you can't console them. When they want to get in there, and we have to keep them out while you're still fighting the fire. We got to keep them out.
Yep.
And it's hard to console them when they're yelling. That's their life. Everything that they own, everything that their memories and all of those things that they may have had for generations that they've lost in those.
They just want to go and look through it.
Yeah.
And ensure that the safety of that stuff is intact. I know your deputies do a terrific job at keeping people out so that the correct homeowner does able to go in there. But even when we talk about some of our larger fires, our wildland fires, where often, again, here we are working really hand in hand. I think some people don't understand that your deputies are the ones often that are going to tell people to evacuate. It's not going to be a fire engine. It's going to be deputies out on the ground during a wildland fire telling people they need to evacuate, get out of here, because our fire crews are actually actively fighting the fire, right? And so that's how we work in unison doing that, right? We work together in determining those evacuation areas and warning areas. We're unified commanders, and then really, it's the law enforcement side that goes out and does those evacuations. I think some people don't understand how that actually works that way.
Yeah, they probably don't. And you said it, the unified command, where we come in and where I know what my role is, you know what your role is, and we try and make sure that we stay out of your way. And you've got to get equipment in there and firefighters and everything else. And the last thing you need is someone blocking the road or refusing to leave. And so, it really. Neither one of us are telling the other one what to do. We already know what we're supposed to do, and it's just one of those seamless things that if something needs evacuating, we try and stay out of your way. We keep the routes out so you can come in, and it just works out that way. And we talked a little bit about arson, but we're coming into the 4th of July season already.
We sure are.
And a lot of our fires are started by illegal fireworks.
They are indeed.
I know within the last couple of years, we've lost houses, we've lost a lot of property, we've lost, hillsides and everything else. And it's unfortunate that people feel the need to get these industrial fireworks and set them off in neighborhoods.
It really is, and they're so dangerous to even have and store around your house. It's terrible. We look at that storage of fireworks last year in Ontario. It pulverized a neighborhood, and it threatened. Right, it threatened children and families. It was a really destructive incident. I'm glad we haven't had one of those here in Riverside County, but people keep going down this route. We're going to.
Yeah.
We've got to be able to have people enjoy those great firework displays within so many of our cities that allows people to watch from a wonderful park and enjoy it all.
Right.
Enjoy those big fireworks and and enjoy that.
And the argument for the last couple of years was the shutdowns because of COVID, and cities stopped their fireworks displays, and a lot of the independent fireworks displays stopped. But they're back now. They're coming back, and we should be enjoying that community involvement of going to those places and watching the big fireworks displays that are put on professionally, where we can sit around there and make sure that should there be a fire from one of those, it's put out immediately.
Sure.
And we keep people safe, and hopefully we're able to manage that a little bit better this year. I hope that people just don't do what they've done for the last couple of years, and a little bit more responsibility.
I hope so. But I also hope people understand that you and I, along with other departments here in the county, have been told by our elected officials as well, and you're a willing participant in this, is that we have to enforce the laws that are there, and fireworks are illegal in Riverside County. And so we understand our logo of You Light It, we write it. Our law enforcement will be out with yours, enforcing those laws and giving people fines for writing illegal fireworks or lighting illegal fireworks. We're going to write fines.
We will be in full force for leading up to the 4th, and even after the 4th, because we know it starts early. People can't wait.
Nope.
And then they didn't get enough on the 4th, so they continue for the next couple of days.
I don't know what's going to be worse, having the weekend first before the 4th, or the 4th following on the weekend. I don't know, but we'll wait and see this year, right? It's going to be challenging.
Yeah, it's funny that we have to think of those things and plan our scheduling and our personnel around what could happen, or what we have to guess what people are going to they're going to do.
We sure do.
Yeah, it's crazy. I was just thinking of something. You made mention about Riverside County fireworks being illegal. There are no fireworks legal in Riverside County.
Well, so there are some cities in the desert that have safe and sane fireworks. It is legal. Those cities have made that ordinance and made that change. They are Desert Hot Springs, Cathedral City, and Coachella. They have safe and sane. They allow them there, but they are very specific, and those are very small communities that allow that. The rest of Riverside County, no. It's illegal to have safe and sane any kind of fireworks. All of it's illegal right now.
Yeah. When you think, a lot of it, you look at the desert and people will say, there's nothing to burn. It's actually, there's a lot of fuel to burn.
There is.
The palm trees that are everywhere go up like Roman candles.
They do.
Those things are like matches when they catch fire. And it's so dry and brittle here that grass goes and the breeze takes it, and weeds and brush and everything else. And we have a lot of that around. You don't think about it because you don't notice it, but it's all there.
It's all there. And then you've been with us on fires when it's windy out there in the desert. It always is. It blows rooftop to rooftop. It's just bad enough, right? Those fireworks are letting vegetation, palm trees on fire, like you talk about, as well, rooftop to rooftop. It's a huge threat.
So talking about the growth and everything else, what should people know about prevention, about wildfire prevention, especially in our mountain areas or the people that live close to our hills? We're in a beautiful area in Riverside County, but we're close to hills with all of that brush and everything else. And what should people know about that? Well,
those people that live, and we call it the urban interface, or when people are living right up close to the wildland, you want to make sure that we have your defensible space. It's under 4290, Public Resource Code 4290 talks about that you need to have 30 feet down to the bare mineral soil, really without any kind of vegetation, and then 100 feet past that where you can have ornamental vegetation, grass, those kind of things. But it's really important that people do that and take care of their properties prior to us really walking into fire season. And now's a good time. Well, we're getting away from any rains. We pretty much know we're not going to have any spring rains. This last weekend I was cleaning up my own backyard, which needed a little help. So, making sure that I'm probably ready to in case something happens for MemberCast. Because remember, even if a fire is going to be away from you for a bit, it'll spot easily a quarter mile, half mile away from the main fire. As we all know, our winds here in Riverside County, it'll carry that and start fires.
And it just takes one ember.
Just one little ember.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so you can tell. We love our rain. We have to have our rain in the winter and in the early spring. But when it's all beautiful and green, we really don't necessarily like that when we're talking about fires in the summertime, because the greener it is in the spring, the worse it is for us, because that brush and that grass grows so fast that it all dies and it's all fuel.
It is. And You realize you can watch the news and everybody will tell you, and it's just true with data. We just didn't get a lot of rain this winter.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we had a dry January, February, March, April, May. We just haven't had a lot of rain. We had a lot of rain right there in the winter, December, November. We caught about 10 inches, but we haven't had anything since then. And so all those fields that were normally dependent on that rain in the winter, they're all dry, like you're saying, and they're ready to burn. And I think that fire in Orange County is just a great example of that, right? Something right off the coast, boom, it went because it's been so dry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
definitely something that we have to think about, and residents need to think about, and especially this time of year, because we love our summers here, but
Yeah.
summer and breeze is not good for firefighting.
No, it's not.
Not at all.
The fall's always the worst for us, but right now we're walking into it.
Yeah. One thing that we were talking about, we briefly mentioned the fireworks, and we're going to be out in force
Sure.
with those calls, and the illegal fireworks, especially in neighborhoods, they're in my neighborhood. There are a lot of animals. There's horses. My horses. One of my dogs definitely do not like the fireworks, and one of my neighbor's horses was injured pretty badly.
Okay.
So it's hard. I mean, people will say, "Well, I can do whatever I want, and it's my property, and it's my house." But you got to care about your neighbors. You got to care about the people around you and their animals and their kids and whatever the case may be. And it's a huge drain on our services, the amount of calls for service that we get because of those fireworks.
It really is. I think about when I look at our stats for the year. It's the highest year for us to run calls. And remember, we run medical aids during the pandemic and everything else. Still, the 4th of July is that day that was the spike for us for as much, as you said, not only fires, but medical aids and all that requests for service during that time. It's just because of illegal fireworks. It just makes that whole thing worse.
Yeah,
and
I know you spiked too, and I don't know if you have that exact numbers. I cheated and looked and saw what we had for in 2021. We had 8,700 calls for service for fireworks.
Well, then we had 8,800.
Yeah, better. That's what I figured.
No, let me look at that. Yeah, no, ours was more.
It's a huge drain, and we want to send deputies to those as much as we can. Sometimes we can't, and we don't get out there to everyone.
Yeah.
But we definitely do try, and we still have our regular job to do. There's still regular calls for service that we have to handle, mixed in with all of the illegal calls for service. So I'm hoping that people think about that. Think about what they're doing to their neighborhood, their community, and to us in particular when we may be, and even sometimes when you go out and you find somebody that may be doing an illegal firework operation in their neighborhood where they've got everybody together and they've got these industrial fireworks displays going off. When we go out there and we will go out there, the chances are we will.
Yep.
And we're there for a while. And
ties us up.
Absolutely. It ties us up for a long time because we're going to take all of those fireworks. We're going to take them safely. We're not just going to throw them in the trunk and take off. And it does tie us up from services that we probably should be standing by or handling when we're not there. So
that's right.
I'm hoping that, like I said before, it's a little bit better this year and people think a little bit.
Me too. You know, and as we just went past Memorial Day, one of the things that we've learned together going down this journey is it also affects the men and women that have served in the armed forces. That we've had 20 years of war, and we have a lot of men and women that are back here in beautiful Riverside County, as we have a lot of patriots that have lived here. We should have a little consideration for them too. We've learned through some of their experiences, all these fireworks really isn't that good for them either.
Yeah,
and
that's a good point to make. Yeah. That's a good point to make because I specifically remember last year there we had several of those that were PTSD related, where people were calling in because of what their neighbors were doing, and that's a serious issue, and that mental aspect of being thrown back into that probably horrible position that they were in.
Right.
We don't know how they're going to react either, and it takes them mentally back to a place where they don't want to be, and sometimes it causes irrational behavior that could have easily been prevented had they not been put in that situation.
Exactly.
So, thinking about your neighbor and caring about other people more than yourself a little bit is probably a wise thing for our 4th of July celebrators.
Yeah, and just getting out there and watching those big celebrations throughout most of our cities here in Riverside County. Just these wonderful big celebrations you can go and enjoy.
Yeah, I know. And off the top of my head, I wish I should have thought about this before and found exactly the ones that were going. But I know Riverside always has theirs at Mount Rubidoux.
Sure.
Canyon Lake, I know, is having a big fireworks display this year. The city of Moreno Valley, I haven't heard if they were doing it or not, but typically theirs is a very large one.
I can't imagine that they're not. Temecula always does a great one down there by the fire station, we always have a good view when I used to work there. So, yeah, no, there's plenty throughout all of Riverside County. I'm sure there's some in the Pass area as well. It'll be wonderful.
Yeah, take the time, look it up, and find a good place to take the kids and.
I know both of our websites will have it on there somewhere.
Yes,
rbcfire.org will have them listed somewhere, and the sheriff's will too.
Absolutely.
Good.
What else? That I don't want to keep beating the fireworks horse, but
well, I think one thing that's happened in the news lately is that terrible incident that was in Texas, where there was an active shooter that happened down there, and I want the people that are listening to your podcast to understand that our two departments train together for active shooter. None of us want to see it. We hope and pray that never happens. But here in this county, our law enforcement and fire agencies do train together and work together to have to deal with an incident that's like that. And I just want to make sure that people don't think that we're not on the same page.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because I've fielded those calls already, and I mean, God forbid, I don't want that happening here. We don't ever want that we don't want them anywhere, but certainly not in our own backyard. And I hate to Monday morning quarterback. I'm the first one to criticize anyone for Monday morning quarterbacking. But in situations like this, we do have to look at what we do here and how we train and what we train for and what we instruct our personnel to do. And it's a little different than it is in other places.
It is.
And I mean, not to criticize them, but I certainly would hope that we have different outcomes with our personnel when things like that happen. And I know that we certainly train. We train all the time.
We do.
And I certainly hope that the reports. I can see it. I can see calls that we get of situations. Sometimes they're false alarms, but we still get there at the same time, and we're still deploying how we train.
Yep.
So we know that it is a little bit different, and the general public does need to be aware and confident that they're going to get I'll coin it and say a service above self response from us, where that mission is to protect the kids. And,
both
and it may
agencies.
not even be a school. It may be
Whatever.
any active shooter at
Whatever.
a mall or a church or whatever the case may be.
Whatever it is.
Those people are more important to us than us, and we're going to do everything we can to eliminate that threat while you all are with us to
help
triage
and move patients out of the way.
Absolutely.
That's our job, and get them to the hospital. Right. That's our job. Fire. Your job is to deal with whatever's going on, but our job is to work with law enforcement. And law enforcement, I know that your agency and all the other ones understand that we're going to get fire in there pretty quick to move people, treat whoever's injured quickly, effectively, and get them out of the way and get them transported. Right? We all get it.
Yeah, I think that's one of the good things about here that may not be in the rest of the country, or at least the majority of the country, is how close we are
exactly
in how we interact.
Yep.
There really isn't. I mean, there's never been a case, even in my 30 years, and I mean, you're at 40, where we've said, I wonder why are the deputies here, or why is fire here? It's almost just an expected.
And you see it more in the men and women on the streets, right? When you and I get to go and see something that's going on, I see fire and sheriffs working really close together all the time on a lot of calls. And this obviously would be the most stressful for both of our agencies if something like this ever does happen. And one of the things I always tell my people is if we train hard enough on this, it never happens. I always say that, right? And that's one reason I like that we're prepared as best we can. Maybe we can continue not having these for a very, very long time. I'm hoping.
Yeah, I know we already had them. It's the emphasis has been to broadcast them now to the schools and everything else, just in light of what happened. But we had already been in the process of arranging these big summertime school out. Is when the schools give up their schools to us so we can train at this.
You guys have been the leaders, and you guys have been the leaders in doing it.
Yeah.
No, the sheriff's department has been. It just happened. We've been participant, but when you and I knew each other back in the HEMA days, and there was always that leadership there that they had worked with the school district to provide a school. They had actors and players, and we all went through and did our job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do everything we can to make sure that we get out of it as quickly and safely as possible. But I hope you're right. The more we train, the less it's going to happen. So.
I wish I felt that way as a captain when I was on an engine. If I train for this, we'll never do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Murphy's Law.
Right? It's Murphy's Law.
Absolutely. No, I'm glad you came on. I'm glad
That's a pleasure.
For Riverside County residents to, especially with us. Typically we highlight something in our department, an agency or a bureau or something, a team in our department. But when we were thinking about what are we going to do next, it's like, well, it may be a different department, but we work hand in hand so much. It was like it was a natural thought to get you on here and talk a little bit about fire and us and the relationships and working together to keep Riverside County safer.
We do. It's really terrific. And I understand why it took so long to have me on here. We're sort of the police's, heroes. Fire is, and it always has been.
Sure. I'll let you end on that.
Thank you very much, Sheriff, for having me on.
Absolutely.
It's been a real
glad
pleasure.
to see you.
Thank you.
Glad to see you here. Thanks for coming on, Bill. I appreciate it.
You bet.
Thank you all for listening in, and we will see you next time on the RSO Roundup.